In the winter of 1964, inside the dim corridor of the Hacienda Motel in Los Angeles, Sam Cooke staggered forward with nothing but a crimson-lined jacket clinging to his shoulders. Moments earlier, America's golden voice had filled arenas, glowing under spotlights that adored him. Now, stripped to near nothing, Sam pounded on a locked office door, his breath trembling, demanding answers no one would give. Fame had crowned him a prince of soul, but fame had also whispered darker things about temptation, betrayal, and a grief he never outran after losing his infant son. On that final night, something snapped. A scream, a struggle, a shot that echoed through cheap walls and ended a myth in the making. And behind it all lay a trail of secrets that Hollywood buried quickly. Far too quickly. This is the untold truth of Sam Cooke. Welcome to Hollywood Mysteries. 10 hours. Sam Cooke's rise didn't begin on a grand stage, but inside a modest Chicago church, where at just 6 years old, he joined his family's gospel group, the Singing Children. By age 14, he was already performing with the Highway QCs, averaging 3 services every Sunday, sometimes singing to crowds of more than 500 congregants. That early discipline, hours of rehearsals, rigid expectations from his preacher father, and the weight of being the promising son, formed the first cracks in a mind split between duty and desire. His true breakthrough came in 1951, when he replaced H. Harris as lead singer of the Soul Stirrers. Harris had been a gospel titan for 2 decades, and Cooke stepping into that role was considered a near impossible leap. Within months, attendance at the group's concerts surged. From the usual 200, 300 listeners to nearly 1,000 in major cities. Specialty records quickly noticed. By 1952, Sam had recorded his first tracks with them, including Jesus Gave Me Water, which sold tens of thousands of copies, exceptional numbers for the gospel market at the time. But woven into this ascent was his first sin. Not a scandal, but a decision. In 1957, after nearly 6 years of touring exclusively in the gospel circuit, Sam secretly recorded a pop single under the alias Dale Cooke. He did it to test the waters without betraying his church audience. But the disguise fooled no one. Fans recognized his voice instantly. The backlash from the gospel community was swift, with some churches refusing to book the Soul Stirrers and ministers criticizing him for leaving God for the world. That moment, one song, one alias, one act of rebellion, planted the seed of the dual life he would fight for the rest of his career. Did I tell ya? By the end of 1957, Sam Cooke had crossed a point of no return. His first pop single, You Send Me, sold more than 2.5 million copies, replacing Elvis Presley at #1 on the Billboard charts for 2 consecutive weeks. An almost unthinkable feat for a young black artist emerging from gospel. The industry celebrated him as a phenomenon, but the numbers hid a darker truth. Every hit widened the fracture between his public miracle and his private exhaustion. In 1958, he began performing up to 180 shows a year, sometimes singing twice in a single night. His earnings jumped from a few $100s per church performance to nearly $100,000 annually. Yet that financial success came with a cost. The pressure to maintain crossover appeal forced him to adjust his sound, his wardrobe, even his diction. Managers asked him to smooth the edges, and Sam, determined to build something larger than himself, complied, one compromise at a time. His blind spots surfaced during his battles with record labels. When RZA offered him a historic $100,000 advance in 1960, Sam believed he could finally control his art. But buried inside the contract were clauses that gave the label broad ownership of his masters for decades. It was a strategic trap masked as opportunity. Sam saw the dollar figure. He didn't see the legal noose tightening around his legacy. The irony is that in response, he founded both SAR Records and CAGS Music, becoming one of the first Black artists to own a publishing company, an act of defiance that made him a target for executives who had long profited from artists exactly like him. Signs of unraveling appeared quietly. During a 1963 tour, Sam recorded a grueling 14 shows in 12 days, pushing his voice until he developed recurring throat inflammation. His doctor warned him to slow down. Instead, Sam booked more dates. He believed momentum was everything. Rest, he said, was for the artists who didn't want to change the world. Then came Shreveport. On October 8, 1963, after being denied a hotel room because of his race, he was arrested for disturbing the peace. The police report noted his blood alcohol level later that night as 0.16, twice the legal limit, a number often associated with impaired judgment and emotional volatility. Outside the station, Barbara whispered, "They'll kill you." Sam answered with a confidence that bordered on delusion. "They ain't gonna kill me because I'm Sam Cooke." That night acted as a prophecy. Within weeks, he wrote "A Change Is Gonna Come," a song he told friends felt too heavy, as if death was in the melody. He performed it only a handful of times. Some sources say fewer than 5, because it stirred something in him he couldn't control. Meanwhile, the cracks widened in his private life. On tour, he spent thousands of dollars on impulsive gifts, nights out, and hush payments. In 1963, he settled a paternity dispute by paying roughly $5,000, $10,000, a figure kept quiet but noted by those close to him. At home, after his 18-month-old son, Vincent, died, Sam threw himself into work with an intensity that frightened even his inner circle. On stage, he glowed. Off stage, he burned. The first fracture came from a place far older than the music. Sam Cooke had spent his life trying to outrun the shadows of Mississippi, where his family fled racial terror when he was barely 2 years old, and the lingering weight of being the preacher's gifted son. That early pressure hardened into a perfectionism that no success could satisfy. By 1963, after more than 12 years touring nonstop, the signs of collapse surfaced quietly. Nights he didn't sleep, shows where he demanded extra microphones in case the first one failed, and sessions where he recorded 20 to 30 takes of a single verse. Those closest to him noticed his temper sharpened. Arguments with managers and bandmates rose by nearly 50%, according to his tour logs from that year. But the real break came at home, when his 18-month-old son, Vincent, drowned in the family pool on June 17, 1963. Sam's stability snapped. Friends said he aged 5 years in 5 weeks. He canceled 6 shows, but rebooked 11 more immediately after, insisting he needed the noise. Barbara, grieving alone, told relatives he had become another person, disappearing for nights, returning with the smell of whiskey and lipstick on his shirts. That grief pushed him deeper into the life he kept outside the spotlight. A life filled with women, late-night rooms, and payments made in silence. Those payments were real and documented. In the 6 years before his death, Sam secretly settled at least 3 paternity disputes. One of them, involving Connie Bowling, ended with a payout estimated between $5,000 and $10,000, the equivalent of more than $50,000 today. Another settlement, according to SAR Records' internal ledger, was paid in cash, nearly $3,500, to avoid a public court summons. Each case chipped at his marriage, and by 1964, he and Barbara had separated twice, never formally, but long enough for neighbors to notice Sam's car missing for days at a time. His career, too, carried its own strain. When he founded SAR Records and CAGS Music, he took on responsibilities usually divided among multiple executives. By late 1964, Sam was overseeing up to 14 artists, reviewing contracts, arranging studio dates, and fighting radio stations that refused to play Black-owned material. He fielded dozens of phone calls a day, kept handwritten notes of expenses down to the dollar, and insisted on approving every mix personally. That kind of control came from a wound shaped by decades of watching Black artists cheated out of their royalties. But the workload was unsustainable. He was one man battling an entire system. Then came Shreveport, a wound that reopened every fear he spent a lifetime suppressing. Being denied a room, arrested, and told he was disturbing the peace despite having a valid reservation cracked something in him. His mugshot from that night shows a stare too calm for someone with a 0.16 BAC. But the arrest report notes high agitation, verbal defiance, and visible tremors. Sam had been humiliated in front of his wife, handcuffed like a criminal. The public never heard the officer's remark, recorded in a memo from the precinct clerk, that Sam should stay in his place. Those words, more than the arrest, ignited the fire that led to "A Change Is Gonna Come." But even as the song lifted him, his private world descended further. By October 1964, he was drinking more heavily. Bartenders from the California Club later testified he could consume 2 to 3 double whiskeys in under 40 minutes. He spent thousands on impulsive nights, hotel suites, champagne, parties that ran until sunrise. One associate recalled Sam once tipping a single waitress $500, a gesture as generous as it was reckless. And so the stage for the final night was set long before the Hacienda Motel. He picked up Elisa Boyer on December 10, 1964, after spending nearly $100 on drinks, roughly the cost of an entire week's motel stay at the time. At the motel, he paid $3 for the room, signed under a false name, and walked in with more than $3,000 in cash in his jacket pocket. Hours later, most of that money vanished. Boyer fled with his clothes. Sam burst out into the cold hallway wearing only a sports coat and one shoe, shouting, "Where's the girl?" While banging on the manager's office door, Bertha Franklin fired 3 shots. Only one hit, a .22 caliber bullet that pierced his heart. His autopsy noted 2 broken ribs, a shattered wrist, and bruises across the torso, suggesting a struggle longer and more violent than the official story implied. Police ruled it justifiable homicide within 72 hours. Some said Sam was reckless, others said he was robbed. But the tragedy was deeper. A man carrying years of grief, guilt, ambition, and expectation, all converging into one night where everything he had built collided with everything he had run from. The 2. In the weeks following Sam Cooke's death, a strange irony unfolded. The song he feared most, "A Change Is Gonna Come," was released on December 22, 1964, just 11 days after he died. It sold more than 100,000 copies in its first month, a number far greater than any of his socially conscious recordings, while he was alive. Within 5 years, it became an anthem of the civil rights movement, performed at rallies that drew crowds of 10,000 and 20,000 people, many of whom never knew the song's creator had sung it live only a handful of times. His brief flicker of resurrection came through his business legacy. Easy Art Records, which he founded with less than $5,000 in capital, continued releasing music for several years after his death, influencing artists who would later sell millions. His publishing company, Decag's Music, ensured his family received royalties that most Black artists of his era never saw. A quiet victory measured not in applause, but in balance sheets and contracts that finally protected his name. But the final question lingers. What truly ended Sam Cooke's story? A .22 bullet? A lifetime of grief? The weight of being the man expected to change America? Or was it simply the collision of ambition and vulnerability inside one motel room? His legacy rises, but the mystery remains, etched permanently into American music.